Good evening everyone. Today we are at Queen Mary Business Insider Studios. I'm your host Maria and today we're going to be discussing the case of Cemex. So Cemex is a Mexican multinational building materials company with its headquarters in San Pedro in Mexico. It manufactures and distributes cement, ready-mix concrete and aggregates in more than 50 countries. About 1/3 of the company's sales come from its Mexican operations, a quarter from its plants in the US, 15% from Spain and smaller percentages from its plants around the world. Cemex currently operates on 4 continents with 66 cement plants, 2,000 ready-mix concrete facilities, 400 quarries, 260 distribution centres and 80 marine terminals. Today in the studio with us we will have famous business analyst Jonathan Tagore to discuss the case of Cemex. Good evening, I'm Maria Rose and this is our business analyst Jonathan. Today we're going to be discussing the case of Cemex. So, Cemex is the Mexican building material giant and has recently become the world's largest cement provider through an array of acquisitions across several continents. These acquisitions have reduced Cemex's dependency on the domestic market, but since the global recession, where do they stand now? So, Jonathan, what has driven Cemex to go global?
For obvious reasons, Cemex wanted to go global like any other businesses. It wanted to go beyond its domestic market and to expand. Once it had started expanding and went on and acquired a few companies in the US, and then to keep up with the growing market, to keep up with the growing global market especially, it had to go on and establish a strong base internationally, and that's the reason it chose to go global. And it had chosen the way of market entry as acquisitions.
So Jonathan, in what ways do you think that Cemex is a multinational enterprise?
So a multinational enterprise can be defined as a corporation in which has its facilities and other assets in at least one more country other than its home base. Such companies have offices and factories in different countries, but its headquarters are centralized in its home base or in one country. Looking at Cemex, which has its headquarters in Mexico, but it has branches in Spain, US, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Panama, Egypt, South America, Venezuela and the Caribbean. In all of the above markets, Cemex bought the largest cement manufacturing companies that were already established. So that's what makes it a multinational enterprise.
So, what do you think Cemex's key competitive advantages are?
When I analysed the competitive advantage of Cemex, I looked into it through a VRIO-framework, where V stands for value. Cemex, the brand itself, holds immense value, although it's intangible, but it does hold a value as a brand. It does standardize products produced on a global scale and then provided locally. And as of 2010, its total asset value is 34.9 billion. For R, which stands for rarity, it is not rare in terms of production, but it is rare in terms of technology, because Cemex is the first company that provided customer service. For example, with global positioning system, their customer were able to track their orders, and also after-sales services, which not many other cement companies provide with. Moving on to I, which is imitability, it would be really difficult for any other company to imitate Cemex at this level, because in terms of mergers and acquisitions, Cemex gradually started to purchase already established companies in different countries and in the economic boom period. But after the global cash crunch, it would be almost impossible for any company to imitate what Cemex has done. And lastly, organization. They have a very strong talent retaining management system, starting from recruitment. In the organization of human capital, Cemex has installed a clear career path in order to for its new employees to transition into the farm. So each new employee have to go through a compulsory induction, which is designed to each employee's level, which I think makes it a very strong organizational structure.
So Jonathan, why did Cemex choose to go to Spain first?
Cemex opted for Spain after the US cement makers, they fearing the competition, they were finding ways to fight them, and they filed an anti-dumping suit against Cemex, and subsequently it was forced to pay anti-dumping duties, and eventually they were blocked from operating in the US. So Spain was like an entry point for them in the British market as well as the EU market, and it helped them to resume their cement export activities in the US as well, and also to increase its direct competitiveness with Holcim, which is based in Switzerland.
So, will you be able to tell us why Cemex chose to internationalise to Spain and any challenges it faced?
The reason Cemex chose this particular location was because Spain was exempt from anti-dumping duties, which helped Cemex to reconnect with their exporting duties in the US. And whilst I look at the challenges Cemex faced, I looked at it through the Cengage framework, which stands for Cultural, Administrative, Geographical and Economic. The cultural challenges Cemex faced was it found it really challenging to strike a balance between its integrating policies and the cultural beliefs of the Spanish people. The administrative challenges were it incurred a high cost because it had to turn around the management system of the acquired company to its own policies. It didn't have much of a geographical challenge because the company it acquired were already established in the particular region, but it did face economic challenges because they had to borrow over £1 billion to acquire the two largest company in Spain, which was company Valencia and Sanson, in order to outplay its main competitor Holcim. And also it had to spend a big deal of money in the port facilities in southeastern Spain just to get a toehold in EU.
So Jonathan, why did Cemex opt for an acquisition strategy compared to other potential market entry options?
First of all, I think it's a very good idea what Cemex did, because Cemex decided to opt for acquisition strategy as it meant they could go out already and buy established companies in the regions. Also, it meant that they had a competitive edge over their competitors and over the beginners in the region. It gave them a new operational control in the new markets because as they started on the top, the strategy enables Cemex to supply its product on a global market and do mass productions from the beginning rather than have to build it over. And also it gave them a market competition, less market competition because they acquired already established companies. If they had entered as a new beginner, it would give them a much more broader market competition. Also, I have done a Porter's 5 forces analysis on the industry. Say, threat of new entry is moderate, given there's low barriers to entry, it's highly regulated industry, and there's a low foreign direct investment by the government. The buyer power is low because consumer is price taker because the demand of cement is high. The supplier power is moderate because company can own raw materials, concentrate suppliers, especially in China. The threat of substitution is, I would say, very low because the substitute of cement is much more expensive to buy. And finally, the competitive rivalry is high because there are strong multinational companies of the same aptitude, and there's many regional and national company which is growing in the same pace, and their acquisition is also in the same pace. I would say it's a high competitive rivalry.
So, as we already know, Holcim and Lafarge are two of the main competitors for Cemex. Can you tell us if there's any similarities between their approaches?
Yes, you're right, Maria. Holcim and Lafarge are actually the two largest competitors of Cemex, and their approaches are quite similar too. All three have taken part in acquisition over other businesses as market entry approach. They all three have done almost similar foreign direct investments. They have all gone through the decentralized approach, and they all had trouble to unify corporate cultural systems when they moved abroad.
So Jonathan, how should Cemex solve its cash crunch problem?
First of all, they should look for new investors to generate more cash in the company. Secondly, they should free up less profitable acquisitions to again generate more cash. For example, I think they should sell Rinker as they are not a long-term revenue investment and they're really overvalued. And they should remain with the current currencies as exchange rate eventually will move up in the long term.
Do you think the nationalisation of industries could be a threat for multinational enterprises given the experience of the cement industry in Venezuela?
Yes, of course. I think the nationalization of industry can be a big threat to the multinational enterprises, and for these reasons, because it affects the company's growth. The state owing Cemex may lead to rigid routine and lack of freedom on behalf of the management. Secondly, limited investment. If owned by the state, it will have to compete against other sectors such as education, housing, treatment, etc. Lack of competition, again. By nationalizing the cement industry, it may mean that there is reduced competition. Maybe in some countries there's no competition at all.
So, Jonathan, in what ways do you think that Cemex could rethink its globalization strategy?
Right, so I think they should really continue to invest on their IT system to maintain customer loyalty and to organize recognition. Also, I think they should really focus on standardization to adopting local culture, because currently they're facing barriers across different regions, such as cultural and language barriers. Also, I think they should really develop and acquire the BRICS countries, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, because of their rapid growth. And these are the countries which has massive opportunities. And if Cemex can provide with further technological advancement to these countries in order to increase their presence and add to its organization's image, that would be really helpful for them. I think they should also improve their credit rating by looking at a new financial consultants in terms of risk, management and accountancy in the firms. Could also sell some of its low performing or low profitable acquired branches, as we have discussed before, to generate some cash. Also, potential investors is a big opportunity for them, like we have discussed before. And lastly, I also think that they could also look into their own management board to find insights into their own methods and see how they can increase efficiency, really. Yeah, that's all I'll
Okay, so thank you for your time today, Mr. Support. Very informative.
It's always my pleasure, Maria. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.